Hi, my name is Eva Steiner, and this is my project Psychotherapists Around the Globe. I am interviewing the psychotherapists around the world and asking them the same 8 questions. I am wondering how mental health profession is in their country. Today we are going to. So thank you for taking this time for doing this interview with me. I was really looking forward for it. Before we start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Drishti Mokhtan, and I am psychosocial counselor working in Nepal. And I have been in this field for almost around like 2-3 years now. It's really good to be here and get this opportunity to share my experience as a psychotherapist or a psychosocial counselor.
Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about your culture? What is some holiday or tradition that your country celebrates? And if your culture would be an emotion, what emotion would it be?
So when I have to talk about Nepalese culture, it is very rich and is very diverse. Nepal has a lot of religion. It's a multi-religious country where Buddhism and Hinduism are the two major religions that here Nepalese people, they tend to follow. But apart from Hinduism and Buddhism, there are other religions as well. If I have to talk about our language, Nepali is the national language that majority of the people here in Nepal, they speak. And we are very passionate about celebrating festivals here. So like I said, we have a lot of religions. And along with those religions, we have separate festivals as per what religion we follow. So when we talk about Buddhism, we have few festivals like Losar, Buddha Purnima. And when we talk about Hinduism, we have Dasai, Tihar, Holi, and a lot of other festivals. It's very rich in culture when I have to talk about Nepalese culture. And it's really nice that I'm getting a platform to speak about my culture. And the second question, which you asked me, was if our culture had to be an emotion, that would be joy. If I have to describe about Nepalese people, they always have a smile on their face no matter what. So they're very happy and resilient people. They love to celebrate life. I think joy would be the perfect emotion to explain and describe how we are.
And before we start recording, you just mentioned there is a festival going on today. Can you tell it again? What is
Yes.
all about?
Yes. The festival is actually approaching. It is about Nepalese women coming together wearing red saris or wearing any red dresses and beautiful ornaments. They tend to celebrate womanhood. They tend to worship to their gods about the long life of their husbands. And this is the pre-celebration that they are doing before the festival. So they come together and celebrate it with a lot of dance, music, a lot of laughter and joy.
Did you became a psychotherapist in your country, and what is your therapeutic approach?
I think for this question, I have to relive those past memories again, because as far as I remember, mental health or psychology in general was not something I was interested in or came to know about this in early stages of my life. It was during my high school days that I got introduced to psychology. And ever since then, I have been very passionate about wanting to work in this field and do something that I can do from my part to contribute to a better mental health situation here in Nepal and as well as globally. To answer your question, how did I become a psychotherapist? So this was me as an undergraduate student. I was looking for an opportunity where I would be able to use my knowledge into practical skills or basically apply my knowledge in practical fields, right? So that's how I was looking for opportunities. And I came across a basic counseling training, which was of 10 days. That's how I came to find out that, okay, there are trainings which are provided in my country, which will help me to practically use my knowledge. Because of that training, I came to be introduced to 6 month psychosocial counseling training. So here in Nepal, there are various trainings provided in the fields of mental health. So I took 6 months psychosocial counseling training. It was rigorous training of so many hours. And here you get to learn a lot of things about how to practice psychosocial counseling in our communities. And then you get certified as a psychosocial counselor. But apart from that, there are also other trainings like 1 year training. And you can even opt for a master's degree if you have to practice in a profession of psychotherapy.
So a lot of practical trainings, huh? A lot of practical experiences.
I believe that everywhere in the country there is a particular license procedure. Most of the countries they practice licensing, but unfortunately in our country, the license procedure is yet to be achieved. Hopefully, we're looking for that procedure here in Nepal as well.
Yeah. And can you also study, for example, psychology and then become psychotherapist, or you need to go through these trainings?
So training is basically an additional tool for you to become effective in your profession.
Mm-hmm.
It supports your academic career. And apart from that, there's definitely degrees for psychology, psychotherapies, and a lot of other courses that offer support for individuals to pursue this profession.
How society looks upon psychotherapy or any psychological help?
In our country, in Nepalese community, mental health is still a topic which is not openly discussed. It is still a lot of stigma around mental health can be seen because people tend to believe that mental health is not as important as physical health, but definitely it is changing a lot in this present scenario. When we compare it with the past situations, it has definitely come a long way, but changes are yet to be done and yet to be achieved. Mostly when we talk about city areas, a lot of changes have been made. Here we see a lot of psychotherapists, counselors, psychologists in the city areas. But when we talk about going out of the city areas, proper psychological help is yet to be received by the people there. Many people still believe that going to a professional is not an option, and they tend to opt for traditional healers. Think traditional healers can solve their mental health challenges rather than going to a professional. That is because of the lack of awareness about mental health issues. So it is definitely changing. The scenario is upgrading day by day in a better way, but yet there is a long way that we have to go.
Do you maybe know what kind of stigma, what kind of belief surrounds mental health?
So when we talk about the stigmas in mental health, people think that it's nothing. So people going through any mental health challenges, they can deal with it by their own self. It's just going to be okay. They're just going to be okay. But that's not how it works, right? Because people have been struggling mentally and they are having a very hard time to open up about their issues. A lot of judgments are also passed when we tend to open up about needing help. It's still sad to see that people are labeled with different names because they were going through certain mental health issues. So these are some kind of stigmas that are still prevalent, but is changing.
Is it hard to get a client?
We tend to get clients. People are being very open about talking or reaching out for help. But in the areas apart from cities, people are having a hard time to actually know what is happening to them because they do not know. They think it's very normal. It's actually not. In the rural areas, it is hard for people to seek that help or even come out and reach for a professional support.
And you mentioned that compared to the past, things are changing. So what do you feel is contributing to this change?
When we talk about the change that is happening in the mental health field of Nepal, many youths or people who have been going through it, so they are coming and opening up and talking about it. So I think it's the youths that are playing a huge role in changing the scenario of mental health in Nepalese context. So they're aware that this is something as important as physical health and it should be addressed now, because when it turns into a severe issue, it will be very hard for people to seek help, or maybe there would not be as much support. So that's why do not let the issues go into its severity. People are coming forward and youths are very vocal about what they are going through. Not all the youths, but majority of the youths are very, very, very aware about mental health being as important as our physical health.
Okay, the fourth question. What is your society teaching about child-parent relationship, and whether these values of society also affect how you design your interventions?
Nepalese society values respect for elders and authority figures. So parents are expected to be authority figures and children are expected to respect their parents or any other elders. Here, there is a lot of importance in context of giving respect to our elders and being grateful to our parents for raising us. And a lot of gratitude is there. And we do, as the children of our parents, they tend to look after us in our growing phase, right? But when we grow well as an adult, we are expected to take care of our parents and fulfill our roles and responsibilities as their children. So that is how parent-child relationship in Nepal is. So a lot of respect is there. In Nepal, it is basically everyone coming together, and you can see a lot of joint families, which is changing in the present context. Nuclear families are also coming into picture a lot. But when I talk about majority of the population, child-parent relationship, a child is raised in a joint family where if parents are not present, other members of the family can take care of them. So to answer your second question, are our interventions related to the child-parent relationship that is prevalent in Nepal? Yes, the interventions that therapists tend to design is completely dependent upon how a child and parent have their relation. So just to give an example, if a child and parent, they're struggling with communication issues or they're having conflicts or trust issues, then therapists tend to design their interventions according to the needs of both parents and children. So first, if the child has come in for the therapy, right, then the child is made aware about their parents' perspective as well. First, understanding what the child's needs and preferences are, of course, and then they are made understood about how the parents might be feeling in this case, and vice versa. Of course, we tend to talk to the parents as well about how the child is expecting their relationship to be.
So in case the client comes to you and say, I want to cut off my parents, how would you approach?
So this will depend upon if the client, who is a child, is underage, under 18 years, we need parents' assistance no matter what, right? Even if the child says that I do not want to have a connection with my parents, it is impossible as a counselor to intervene in that manner because it is against the ethics. We have to have the consent from parents' side, and we have to communicate back and forth with the parents as well while dealing with the client. But if the client is an adult and is not a minor, then of course we cannot advise or suggest them anything as to do this or do that, but we can tend to work on the part where they can communicate their own things that they want to say to their parents, why they want to cut off or they do not want to have a relation with them. So communication techniques can be guided, like taught to them so that they can have a proper communication with their own parents, and they can reflect on their feelings and emotions as well as understanding their parents' emotions, why certain situation or certain things happened in the past. And other thing is if they are not comfortable talking to their parents or anyone, their parental figures, what is the other alternative for them? If they want to cut off, what is it that they are looking for? Why they want to cut off relationship with them, We tend to dive into the deep-rooted issue, tend to understand the client better. This depends from individual to individual why they are asking to not maintain a relationship with their parents. But this is something we could do.
And in the case of the abuse?
In case of abuse, definitely, if other members of the family are not aware about what the child has been going through, then if the child or the client is comfortable enough to talk to other trusted person, then maybe the other person can also be asked to come for a session so that we can understand and communicate what the client is going through in a better manner, something that can be done in this case. As well as other considerations can also be taken, because it's a very serious matter when it is about abuse, right? But in the most case of abuse, most clients, they do not want to open up about it. It's very hard, right? So of course, the client's preferences will be a priority, and then further steps will be taken.
Yeah. Okay, the fifth question. What are the learned beliefs regarding client-therapist relationship? And can the relationship continue outside the therapy once the therapy process is over?
Like any other client-therapist relationship around the world, in Nepal as well, it is guided through ethics. So ethics is the number one priority. Of course, client and therapist, they tend to have a very special professional relationship. But apart from that, if the sessions are terminated, then any kind of personal relationship is not entertained, as of my knowledge.
Do you have any entity where in case of client abuse, the client can't complain?
I don't think so. There is any committee or board where a client can go, but definitely they can reach out to the police here and complain about it. And there are other organizations as well which might provide support in this manner. But as of now, it's very unfortunate that we do not have certain committee or board to address any abuse in the client therapy relationship.
Okay, the sixth question, is supervision a must for the therapist in your country?
Unfortunately, it's not a must. As far as I have been in this field, I see a lot of professionals in this field, they tend to be supervised by their supervisors. They are very aware that it is something they need guidance upon, then they tend to communicate with their supervisor and deal with the case accordingly. So many professionals, mental health professionals, are definitely under supervision as to what they are practicing, but it's not a must.
Okay, so what are the most common complaints that the client comes to therapy for?
Yes, the most common issues that we often hear in counseling is relationship issues. They are going through relationship ups and downs, and that's why they are here to seek counseling. And other would be anxiety. So anxiety, which is one of the prevalent mental health issues all around the world. It is the same in Nepalese context as well. Many people are struggling with anxiety as well as depression. At the same time, a lot of stress in terms of the roles and responsibilities that they have, be it professional or personal.
Okay, the last question. If you would share one tool, belief, or approach that is a must-have for you as a therapist, what would that be?
So empathy is the number one go-to tool for me. If we cannot understand what the client is going through or what they are facing at this particular moment, then we would fail as a counselor. We would not be able to understand and deal with their issues accordingly. So empathy is very, very important tool, which I tend to market as the number one tool for me when I have to take counseling sessions. And of course, it is very important for us to look at client as a human being and not as their problems. Oftentimes, we as a human being, we tend to judge them because of what challenges or issues people might be going through. But in counseling session, we as a counselor or a psychotherapist, it should not be the case. So we have to understand and respect the client for who they are.
Really, thank you for doing this interview with me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I had the best time. And it was a platform for me to talk about my experiences and how things are in Nepal in the mental health field.